Welcome to Glasgow Calls Out Polluters Oil and Gas Awards 2021. These online awards are taking place at the same time as Oil and Gas UK's annual award ceremony, which is happening right now in Aberdeen and is being sponsored by none other than oil giant Shell. Now, you might be shocked or a little surprised to learn that Oil and Gas UK dish out awards every year to celebrate their industry's achievements, considering they cause so much environmental and human atrocity across the globe, but they do, and they do it every year, giving themselves a pat on the back for categories such as Graduate of the Year, Leadership in Diversity and Inclusion, and Best Large Enterprise. For our own Glasgow Calls Out Polluters Awards, we'll be giving out awards to only the very best oil and gas corporations across parallel categories such as Crap CEO of the Year, Youth Wash of the Year, Fossil Fuel Perpetuation, and Racism and Exclusion. These are all very hotly contested categories and have been decided by an expert panel who all have a very keen nose for bullshit. And as we'll see, there's plenty of bullshit to wade through, but it'll be fun as we laugh at the absurdity of these big polluting companies. We're going to start now with our first category, which brings forward a very exciting and relevant award. Now, the phrase just transition gets thrown around like confetti, especially by folks like Oil and Gas UK. And fittingly, they have an Apprentice of the Year award as they celebrate their industry's contribution to employability. But we're going to bring forward an alternative, which is Layoff of the Year, celebrating the industry's lesser spoken about dismissals of workers. We're going to invite Ben Sacked to present this award. Over to you, Ben.
Hello, my name is Ben Sacked, 20 years in the oil and gas until 6 months ago and still waiting for my severance pay. Anyway, I'm here to present the next award, which is very close to my own heart. Now, the Layoff of the Year award recognises the oil and gas sector's excellence in screwing over its workforce. Layoffs are an essential part of the industry's drive to remain profitable. Simply put, when demand drops for the dirty stuff, they bring out the firing squad to make sure their profits don't fizzle out. Think you've got a secure future in the oil and gas industry? Not in your life. We have some wonderfully callous candidates for this year's awards. So without further ado, let's announce the nominees. So first up, we have Shell UK, headed by David the Crunch Bunch, who oversaw the drop on 330 North Sea oil workers in 2021 alone. Was this Shell's first step in a transition away from fossil fuels in the region? Nope. They are still firmly committed to new oil and gas projects. Next is BP, who love big profit, but not their workforce, having committed to 2,000 job cuts in the UK oil and gas sector last year. While our OG UK CEO Deirdre Mitchie was quick to the show, implying that these job cuts were bizarrely so that BP could meet its net zero commitments, BP's very own Mr. Looney stated that most of the redundancies would be office-based. Meanwhile, BP doesn't have any real commitment to wind down its fossil fuel operations in the North Sea anytime soon. Now, third in contention, we have oil and gas giant Aker Solutions, who fired 250 workers in the UK, including 44 after their client Equinor put upgrading work on their Mariner A North Sea platform on hold. Meanwhile, Aker Solutions CEO Luis Rojo was happy to put the blame on the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the plummeting price of oil, rather than the company's own callous attitude to its workforce. Surely it could have directed some of its £2.4 billion worth of assets to buffer its workforce, rather than to fill its own coffers. And the winner is... it's Shell UK, Hooray! Now, Shell may have just announced that they're pulling out from investing in the Campbell oil field due to apparently doubts around its profitability. However, until recently, they were trumpeting the project's jobs potential. Shell are as fickle with the truth as they are with their own employees, and the deserving recipient of our Layoff of the Year award.
Thank you, Ben, and congratulations to Shell UK for taking home the award. We move now to another exciting award, the Youth Wash of the Year award. Which big polluter can co-opt the youth movement best? Let's find out. Kat, over to you.
Next up in the Glasgow Calls Out Polluters Oil and Gas UK Awards 2021 is the Youth Wash, Graduate of the Year Award. The Oil and Gas UK Awards website explains that this award is given to those who've delivered tangible benefits to their employer and have been identified as future leaders. Let's see the inspiring young candidates who've traded the rest of their generation's safety for kudos from some planet wreckers. First up, we have Bernie Gaskill from BP. The 2010 oil spill is only one of BP's great achievements. In fact, since then, they have leaked 95 tons of oil into the North Sea in 2016 and left it there. This award seeks to highlight future leaders in the young generation. So let's talk about the young people who campaign against the BP Ocensa pipeline in Colombia. BP is colluding with the Colombian government to create a regime of terror around the pipeline, which has resulted in 3,000 activists being killed. BP are similarly funding human rights abuses in the Beaver Lake Cree Nation. To our young nominees today, congratulations on delivering tangible benefits to your employer so that they can continue to commit crimes like these. Next up, we have Paul Lucian from Shell UK Limited. Shell won't let a court ruling from the Dutch government stop them increasing their gas business by more than 20% in the next few years, and they've been aware of the climate crisis since before these nominees were born. After devastating the land the Ogoni people live on, Shell worked with the Nigerian military as they executed 9 activists resisting the project. Shell also were one of the 2 key backers of the Campbell oil field, but because of some pesky activists, they've now pulled out. Their dream of creating pollution equal to 18 coal-fired power plants has been destroyed. We'll just have to hope and pray that the same thing doesn't happen to their partner, Siccar Point Energy. Our third and final candidate is War Extinction from BAE Systems. BAE Systems love coming to universities to find clever young graduates such as Warwick and turn them into bomb makers. As well as making the weapons used on Yemen and Palestine, BAE Systems is the main producer of the UK arms output. The UK are the second largest arms exporter, producing 3 million tons of CO2 a year. And BAE have got the future covered, as they've adapted their weapons to kill people just as effectively in higher temperatures. So, the winner of this category is BP. BP are partners to the One Young World programme, which sees young leaders come together and discuss global issues, as long as they steer clear from the global issue of BP and its allies. Well done, BP.
Thank you, Kat, and congratulations, BP. We can see that these big names like Shell and BP have very much turned up in force so far and taken home prizes. But before we go to our next big winner, here's a quick plug for a crowdfunder we're running. We've experienced a bit of an online pile-on recently from a load of transphobes, for as you can imagine, pretty silly reasons. So to make sure that all of their lovely energy doesn't go to waste, we've started a crowdfunder for a trans mutual aid group, which you can find in the YouTube description below. Please donate if you can. We're now going to go to one of the most important awards, the Fossil Fuel Perpetuation Award. And for this one, we go back to Kat. Great to see you again, Kat.
Next up, we have the Fossil Fuel Perpetuation, the Energy Transition Award, where we award fossil fuel companies for pretending not to extract fossil fuels. First up, we have Equinor. Just 2% of this company's capital expenditure goes on sources of low carbon energy like wind and solar. And by 2026, Equinor plans to have increased its oil and gas production and maintain over 95% of its energy production from fossil fuels. But in 2018, they changed their name from Statoil to Equinor, which they said reflected a transition away from oil and gas. So of course, we'll take their word for it and ignore all the evidence. Next up, we have Repsol Sinopec. Based in Aberdeen, Repsol Sinopec have interest in 48 oil fields on the UK continental shelf, none of which are being shut down as they need to be. One of their projects is the Flotta terminal in Scapa Flow, Orkney. In 2007, they made history with the world's first ship-to-ship transfer of liquefied natural gas, and again in 2016 with petroleum gas. This creativity and entrepreneurialism is exactly what we need if we want to keep expanding fossil fuel extraction and die. Repsol was forced to promise to stop emitting gas through flaring and venting in the North Sea in 2015. Yet after this promise, its emissions from flares actually increased. Clearly a trustworthy contender for an energy transition award. Last but not least, Worley. Petrochemical company Worley have over 900 petrochemical plants operating in over 30 countries. Their transition plan doesn't seem to be shutting down any of these projects, nor does it mention the phosphate trading Worley are facilitating in Western Sahara. Trading in phosphate extracted there supports the occupation of Western Sahara and the police terror that's occurring there. Worley and others are denying the right of the Sahrawi people to self-determination. What a great group to be leading us into this new era of transition. And the winner is Equinor. Your net zero pledges have a get out clause which states you depend on society moving towards net zero by 2050 to commit to any action, with no date and zero of the emissions from the fossil fuels you trade included in the calculations. Your impressive figures of over 2 million barrels of oil per day traded and 2.07 million barrels produced make you the queen of fossil fuel perpetuation. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Equinor, for taking home that award. Very well played. It's time now for another massive award, though, and the stakes just keep getting bigger and bigger. It's the CRAP CEO of the Year award, and we're delighted to have Call from the Stop Campbell campaign to announce it. The Stop Campbell campaign is coming off the back of a very big win, with Shell having dropped their investment for this obviously awful oil field. Now, that's a massive win for campaigners following their inspiring work, but maybe Shell can redeem themselves by taking home this prize. We hand over now to Col to find out.
Thank you for inviting me to host the CRAP CEO of the Year award. It really is a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to be here. We've had a lot of candidates, and I'm now going to share with you the 4 old decrepit white dudes who have excelled in their commitment to crapness in 2021. Today's first nominee is ExxonMobil CEO Darren Woods, who earns his place by being a bit of a dick during US congressional hearings on Big Oil's decades-long campaign of climate denialism and disinformation. Of course, Exxon are one of the world's best known promoters of climate disinformation, having buried internal research into the effects of climate change for years, all to protect their dirty profits. But when Darren Woods was questioned by Congress, he flat out denied misleading the public with regards to climate change, ignoring all evidence to the contrary. We knew he was bullshitting, he knew he was bullshitting, and that's why he's nominated for CRAP CEO of the Year. Our next nominee is someone who is always going to end up on this list. Shell CEO Ben Van Buren. Shell, of course, tied up in neo-colonial oppression across the globe. This is a guy who gets ordered by a Dutch court to align Shell's emission with the Paris Agreement and, instead of taking action, writes a lengthy LinkedIn post talking about how Shell will rise to the challenge, then does absolutely nothing, appeals the original court order and relocates to the UK, where of course he hasn't paid any tax for years. Such is the amount of bullshit that comes out of Ben's mouth, he's taken to publicly defecating from it. Perhaps the furthest an oil CEO has ever gone to quantify their lies. Nevertheless, his company's atrocious record still stands, even if they did lose out on the Campbell oil field fight. Sorry about that, Ben, mate, but don't worry, you're still nominated for our CRAP CEO award. Our third nominee is BP CEO Bernard Looney. Now this guy is utter crap, because unlike other oil and gas CEOs who are old white dudes, I mean, this guy's still an old white dude, but he does it wearing better fitting clothes whilst trying to be cool. It's all part of a general BP rebrand to go from oil company to integrated energy company, selling themselves to young people as a greening company. Bernard Looney can turn up to COP26, well, via video link, and talk about human rights. I suspect he didn't mention the people of West Papua. He can make proclamations about making mental health a global priority, while simultaneously making our planet unlivable. Thanks, Bernard. To the business community, he's more concrete. Oil and gas is here to stay. He won't even cut his ties to the oil lobby and is expanding oil and gas production. Apparently here in the North Sea too. It's embarrassing watching this guy try and become the face of corporate wokeness, acting like a cool dad when he's really just an old fraud. This guy is cringeworthy, yet evil, and for that reason we've nominated him for our Crap CEO of the Year award. Our final nominee is Total CEO Patrick Pouyanné, or rather, he's CEO of Total Energies. See what he did there? He added the word energies onto the end of Total's name. That's grade A bullshit. Or as Pouyanné would say, Total Energies symbolises our strategic transformation into a broader energy company. Then it emerged that, like Shell and Exxon, Total had known about the existence of climate change since the 1970s and continued to this day to push for oil and gas expansion. Until the 1990s, they even supported the overt denial of climate science. Patrick Pouyanné was full of words about Total Energy's rebrand, but noticeably quiet about Total's historic deception. Did he know? Of course he knew. After all, he is the CEO. Speaking nonsensical, vague words while simultaneously ignoring real climate violations, that's definitely enough to earn you a shot at our Crap CEO of the Year award for 2021. I'm delighted to say I can now announce the winner of the Crap CEO of the Year award. In fact, I've got the envelope right here. Can you see that okay? I'll hold it up. And the winner is none other than Shell CEO Ben van Beurden. Well done, Ben. You've beaten off stiff competition from the CEOs of BP, Exxon and Total. But we've given this award to you, CEO of one of the planet's most prolific climate violators. All your glitzy PR and casual LinkedIn posts are nothing more than a front for your continued commitment to maximum oil and gas extraction. We can think of no better way to mark your departure from the Netherlands on account of that court order and forthcoming arrival in the UK than to present you with this award. Welcome to the UK, Ben. Newly crowned Crap CEO of the Year for 2021. I hope you have a shit time.
And that's a second prize for Shell. They really have shown themselves to be utterly despicable. So, even we can't pull off an event like this without help from our corporate sponsors. We go now to a word from them who are, believe it or not, world leaders in interior private jet design.
This is Martin. Martin is an executive at Yasava, the world's premier bespoke private jet interior designers. But Martin, as you can see, has a problem. Yasava are in trouble. Yasawa were in the official COP26 Race to Zero, making bespoke private jet interior design a force for good. But then a bunch of pranksters pretended they were fake, and it seems the UN bought the line, kicking them out of their flagship net zero initiative.
We are real. We are not a joke.
Will you help Martin? Can you ask the UN if they will reinstate the world's premier private jet interiors company? You can email the UN at globalclimateaction@unfccc.int and ask if Yasawa will be reinstated to the race to zero. Otherwise, who knows who'll be next?
Thank you for that heartbreaking tale. We're going to go all the way to London now, to the Royal Courts of Justice, where 3 claimants of the Paid to Pollute campaign are taking the UK government to task over their large involvement in fossil fuel subsidies. One of the claimants, Michaela, has kindly offered to give out the Paid to Pollute award. Let's find out who's been given the biggest leg up by UK government subsidies. Over to you, Michaela.
This is Michaela Loach, and today I'm presenting the Paid to Pollute Award to the group who has contributed so much to the fossil fuel companies that we have mentioned today. The institution has paid £4 billion to North Sea oil and gas companies since the Paris Agreement was signed, and they even gave BP, the winner of today's Youth Washing Award, a tax rebate in 2019. They have also allowed Shell to pay zero tax in 2020. They are on track to produce 3 times their fair share of emissions, and the empire they created is what's caused the climate crisis in the first place. The winner of the Paid to Pollute Award is the UK government. Today we are outside the Royal Courts of Justice. We're having our court case, and it's against the UK government around the policy of maximising economic recovery. So you can support the Paid to Pollute campaign as we're taking the UK government to court, and our award will be your victory, our victory in court. Thank you.
Wow, staggering stuff. We thought it would be one of the recipients of the UK government's funding, but the UK government's policies on oil and gas are so bad, and the system they've created for big polluters is so kind that they fully deserve the award. Thanks so much, Michaela, and you can follow the latest developments on the Paid to Pollute court case on social media. Okay, so the climate crisis is of course also a crisis of racism. We know that those most affected have done the least to cause the crisis. But while this is happening, Oil and Gas UK have the brass neck to run a Diversity and Inclusion Award. This almost feels like a sick joke. So to counter this, we are now going to introduce our Racism and Exclusion Prize. Presenting this one is the wonderful Frank Lee Tolkien. Over to you, Frank.
Hello, my name is Frank Lee Tolkien, and until last month I was an engineer, diversity officer, climate change advocate, and general box ticker-in-chief in the oil and gas sector. After being passed over for the 10th time for promotion, I complained to my manager and was subsequently sacked for workplace bullying. Now I have left the sector for good and employed in a community energy startup. Thank fuck for that. Anyway, on to the awards. The Racism and Exclusion Award recognises the extraordinary role the oil and gas industry has played in globalising racism and exclusion. On to the nominees. Even amongst big polluters, Shell stand out for their incredible efforts in furthering environmental racism, whether that is fighting accountability for their oil spills that devastated communities and ecosystems in the Niger Delta, or pushing for new oil and gas developments whose climate implications will be felt most in the global south. Next up is oil giant Weatherford, headed by Managing Director Chris, the Uncultured Couture. Under his leadership, Weatherford gained notorious attention for the hostile environment experienced by their female employees, including frequent catcalling, which made them feel extremely uncomfortable, as well as disrespected and undermined as professionals. Indeed, at least 59% of women in the oil and gas sector have experienced some form of sexual harassment. Finally, we have the North Sea oil and gas sector itself, strongly represented by Miss not appearing in this profession. With only a paltry 3.6% of the UK oil and gas workforce women, and people from BAME backgrounds regularly taking 6 months longer to gain employment and being the first to be fired during downturns, clearly the North Sea fossil fuel industry is doing its damnedest to uphold the white and privileged. And the winner is... it's Shell. Hooray! CEO Ben van Beurden continues Shell's brand of corporate fascism that echoes their central role in the Nazi war effort, all the while reaping ill-gotten wealth.
Well done, North Sea Oil. Really great stuff. We quickly turn now for one final share of our crowdfunder in support of our trans siblings. As we said before, we had a silly but quite nasty online pile-on from a lot of transphobes, so to make sure that their energy has not gone to waste, we're running a crowdfunder for a trans mutual aid group. You can find the link in the YouTube description. Please share and donate. Now, we cannot finish the Alternative Oil and Gas UK Awards without taking time to appreciate the fine art of shilling for your corporate clients. We turn now to Daisy, who will present the Shill of the Year Award.
The Shill of the Year Award recognises sterling shilling done on behalf of the oil and gas sector in service of corporate profit and climate wrecking. So, without further ado, let's go to our nominations. First up is Oil and Gas UK, headed by CEO Deirdre Mitchie, who has outdone herself tirelessly shilling on behalf of Shell plc and Siccar Point Energy for permission to develop the Campbell oil field. In fact, few have devoted so much overly paid service to arguing the case for new oil and gas projects. Mitchie even went so far as to stunningly claim of the Climate Change Committee's recommendations that ongoing exploration and production is compatible with net zero emissions. Well, it wasn't true, but bravo to Mitchie for sacrificing life, justice and truth in pursuit of some honest-to-God corporate shilling. Next up, we have the International Emissions Trading Association, or the IETA, who are helping businesses trade our future to satisfy their corporate greed. The IETA is an industry body that has taken shilling to new lows. They played a critical role in getting carbon markets formalised during COP26, which essentially functioned to enable big wealthy polluters to trade in carbon credits and shirk responsibility for their polluting ways. Despite the undue power and reach their marriage to the oil and gas sector bestows on them, they are still quick to moan about activists like us resorting to cancel culture tactics when they're called out on their bullshit. Boo! Third up is the impressively named International Petroleum Industry Environmental Conservation Association. This totally non-lobby organisation did a wonderful job enabling corporate shills from the fossil fuel industry to access COP proceedings, helping the sector to have a bigger representation at the climate talks than any single nation. They also colluded with French oil giant Total and the rest of the oil industry since the 1980s to promote climate change denialism. Then they also had the Sustainable Development Goals poster for COP26. They created this, claiming that the oil and gas sector contributes to 17 of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, contributing to creating problems that they are attempting to address, no doubt. And now, I am delighted to announce that the winner of the Shill of the Year is Oil and Gas UK! Hooray! You were a clear favourite by being the host of the parallel Oil and Gas UK Awards in Aberdeen, congratulating and giving prizes to your various oil and gas industry members, and also continuing to lobby the government to keep drilling for new oil. Your work in tirelessly shilling on behalf of the oil and gas industry was so commendable that you had to win.
Well done, Oil and Gas UK. It would have been an injustice for you to have gone home empty-handed. So that concludes this year's Oil and Gas UK Alternative Awards. Thank you so much to all of the presenters of the awards and to all of the nominees. It was another very tough year deciding who the winners of each category would be, and all nominees were very worthy contenders. We'd also like to thank Oil and Gas UK for continuing to run their awards in parallel with our own and providing endless inspiration for groups such as ours through hosting their awards and providing the content for us to work with. So that's a wrap on the 2021 ceremony, but we'll be back next year with another iteration of finding and crowning the very best oil and gas company.